All right, good afternoon, everyone. This is Nithya Ramachandra from the NR Hour Sports Show. We are live on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Spreaker, on all the podcast platforms. And we are joined by a really special guest. His name is Dana Barros. He's a former NBA All-Star point guard, shooting guard. He's from Boston. He went to Boston College for his college career, and he also played for the Seattle Supersonics, 76ers, 2 stints with the Celtics, and the Detroit Pistons. Man, what a great career. Heck of a point guard and shooting guard. Obviously, like I said, being from Boston and playing for Boston College and Celtics means a lot to him, I'm sure. And now he's doing big things off the court. Obviously, after his career, he's part of the E3 Legacy. Go check that out. We're going to get to all of that. And fans, please tune in on our Spreaker app where you can ask questions for Dana today. And it's truly an honor. Dana, thank you again for joining. How are you and your family doing today? I got you on good timing with the March Madness and also NBA playoffs coming up soon.
Everything's good, man. Enjoying this plush basketball season. You know, got a lot of basketball going on right now. We're going to lead into the playoffs. So I'm looking forward to it. I don't watch a lifetime, you know, so I look forward to this time of year.
Yeah. So tell her, I want to start off, what does it mean to you being born from Boston, Massachusetts, and going Boston College and also playing for the Celtics? And what does that mean? What did that mean to you throughout your career, staying home most of your career and playing in front of your family? What did that mean to you?
Because my family came to every single game, whether, you know, when I started playing like really competitively, like 6th, 7th grade, they never missed a game. So I went to high school, never missed a game. When I went to Boston College, they would drive to Villanova, come back that same night and go to work the next day. They would drive to Washington to play Georgetown. And unless I went like outside of a 500-mile radius or 1,000-mile radius, they would drive to the game. So it was incredible for me to have them have the opportunity to watch me play at home and play for the great historic organization, you know, the Celtics. So it was good all the way around. I had nothing but great experiences with those.
Yeah. So speaking of high school, tell our fans. Obviously, you scored a record 57 points in high school in a tournament game. So take us to that, and what was that moment like for you?
And man, I mean, we didn't have, you know, when I was in high school, we had no cell phones, no computers, no internet, none of that. We didn't have none of that. All I had was this right here. So, you know, those 4 years is where I became just a basic player and a great player. So my senior year, I really kind of came into my own athletically. I averaged 39 points a game during the season, and we didn't have a 3-point line at the time either. So once the tournament started, you know, teams were just bigger and stronger and faster. So, you know, as we went on in the tournament, we went to the finals, and over those 5 games, I scored 50, I think 4 of the 5, and then the other one was 40 because our center was like 6'1", and we were playing against 6'8" centers, and all we just press and try to get the game crazy. So that kind of was my break in high school. And actually a football player, top 50 football player in the country. So I didn't get basketball scholarships until after my senior year in that tournament.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so we already have a fan question for you. One of our fans wanted to know who are some of the players that you looked up to while growing up?
I mean, obviously Michael Jordan. I mean, damn, he was like 4 years older than me. So when I was a freshman at BC, when I was a freshman in high school, he was a freshman at North Carolina, and I got to watch him play. And I just idolized this dude, his tenacity on the court. And I had gotten to a very bad habit of sticking my tongue out in high school because just Michael Jordan stuck his tongue out, you know what I mean? So that's how much I loved the guy. And I got the opportunity to play against him for 10 or 11 years in the league, which was unbelievable, man. So yeah, that was my favorite player growing up. And also, obviously, Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. I got to play against those guys for 4 years.
Wow.
So I was blessed to play against, you know, a couple of my heroes right out the gate.
You didn't play with Larry Bird in Boston? No, right?
No. I was in Seattle for 4 years, and when I came to Philly, he retired. He had back injury. He only played, I think, 12 years.
Wow.
Magic played a little longer. He came back. But, yeah, I didn't get to play with him. But actually, he was the GM when I signed to Boston. He was the president, actually. So him and ML Carr actually brought me to Boston. So I got to see him in that capacity and be on his team from that standpoint.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so now you see today's game being positionless in the NBA. They love versatile players. You can, for example, great Golden State Warriors play a lot of small ball. But for you back in the day, what was it like being a versatile player, being a point guard and shooting guard? How important is that for you being playing multiple positions at the same time?
I mean, it wasn't as important back in the day. I mean, it actually hurt me back in the day because at my size and being able to play the two, everyone see me shooting thought I couldn't play the point, you know. So I became a first round pick, and I was actually a second round pick projected, but then I went to the senior tournaments and they actually watched me play point guard and they realized I could play point guard. So, I got stigmatized for that a lot. And when I got into the league, certain coaches only wanted me to come off screens and didn't understand, that I could handle the ball and use the pick and roll as much. So nowadays, man, it would be such a blessing. I was with Antoine Walker at Kevin Garnett's retirement, right? So I'm sitting there saying, man, me and you right now would be unbelievable, bro, right now playing in this era, because he was a point forward who would get the rebound and go coast to coast, and he averaged 8-9 assists a game as a power forward. So it didn't really help me that much back then, especially at my size,
Yeah, so we have another fan question. They want to know about you playing. What was it like playing on Friday nights in high school? Because usually high school sports are on Friday nights, but for you, what was that like on Friday nights?
It was dope because I love playing under the lights, and I was, especially football. I was a receiver and I was a running back, and I played E-back and kick returner. So it seemed like more people came to those games in the Saturday morning game. So lot more honeys, lot more chicks at the game, more people at the game. And I love those. So that was my favorite times, man. Favorite time.
Yeah. So speaking of being a multi-sport athlete, do you ever think to yourself maybe you could have played football and basketball at the same time, or when did you realize that you wanted to play basketball?
Because I was actually on my way to BC to play football. I verbally accepted a football scholarship because I didn't get a basketball scholarship. And I took 2 football visits to BC, and both my visits I hung out with Doug Flutie, who had won the Heisman Trophy and was on the cover of Sports Illustrated. And the funny thing about those football visits was when I hung out with him, all we did was play basketball at the rec center the whole time on a football visit. So I was going there to play football, and then what happened was the day before the signing day, a kid left the basketball team. So the basketball coach just called me and said, hey, we have an extra scholarship. Do you want to play basketball or football? And I said, oh, I play basketball. So the football people were like, what's wrong with you? Like, and everybody was looking at me sideways, but I never practiced football a day in my life. I just went out and played.
Whoa.
So I definitely didn't want to do that in college. I was going to play football for a year, try to walk on BC in the Big East, and then hopefully show the basketball team that I could do it, and then quit football after the first year. So that's how my plan was. I ended up getting a scholarship at the last second for basketball.
Yeah, here's a interesting question from one of our fans. They want to know, what was that one particular music that got you hyped up before a game?
Back in the day, in Seattle, man, that was my Public Enemy days. That was my Chuck D and Flavor Flav, Fight the Pop. Oh, man, come on. That was my joints. I played that whole first year. I was in a rebellious stage at that time, you know what I mean? So that was my music at that time. Then I got to Philly, and then it was the Jay-Z era. I made the All-Star team. It was probably Jay-Z and Mobb Deep and Nas, that era, Wu-Tang. Then as I got older into my Celtics years, it was more hip hop, R&B. I went to the hip hop R&B. I had kids. I couldn't play the 50 Cent no more. The wife was like, kill that. So I progressed through all different types of music, and now I listen to, my favorite stations on Spotify is. I got the DMX channel, Jadakiss, Carl Thomas channel. So I go from the slow joints all the way up to the ill joints.
Wow, yeah. I like your taste of music. Let's go. Yeah, so I gotta ask you, I want to talk about KG. Obviously, you posted a couple of videos there with Glenn Baby Davis going crazy too. But for you, what was it like being in person and being in the front row and witnessing obviously one of the best power forward centers in the game, KG, and getting his number retired by Boston?
It was amazing because I was on the coaching staff at the time, and I have a championship ring from that whole season.
Yeah.
I was director of play development. The picture on when they're on the stage and they're all holding a trophy, I'm like 5 feet to the right of the trophy with the hat on. So I made the cut and all that. So I was literally a front row seat for all that. And the thing that was amazing to me was his work ethic.
Yeah.
And he changed Paul's whole mentality of basketball. You know, Paul would come in to practice and would want to play like one-on-ones and talk, you know, shit to everybody, be crazy. You know, he was more of a when we scrimmaged, then he went serious.
Yeah.
But when KG came, it was like, no, you meet me an hour and a half before practice. We're gonna take 200 shots each. We're gonna, change our diet. We're gonna do this different. So he came for a whole culture change with the Celtics, and I give him a lot of credit for that because he made the organization credible again. Because we went through a long period of where it was bad, man. It was really bad, from Rick Pitino and all that craziness too. So he really changed the culture and brought us back to credibility. And he deserves 90% of the credit for all that, you know.
Yeah. So man, shout out to KG and also shout out to you. I forgot to say, fans. I forgot to mention to the fans. You're also an NBA champion as a coach. So there you go.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So for you, I got to ask you about Boston College. Obviously, a great atmosphere, a great program for football and basketball. So, what did you like? What did you like about Boston College, and obviously being home?
Well, for those who are like at least 35 years old, the Big East. If you never knew what the Big East was in the 80s and 90s, it was like the G League for the NBA. Every team had about 3 or 4 players that went to the NBA. So my goal in going to BC to play football was to get to play basketball in that conference. That was my ultimate goal. I couldn't make it to the NBA, I didn't believe, without playing in that conference, to show everybody that I could play at that level. So being able to play there was unbelievable because on my football visit, me and he sat at midcourt and we went to the Georgetown, BC game. Live in person, I said, okay, this is what I signed up for. Like, this is, I'm gonna have to be ready for this. And that inspired me because that conference, man, was an amazing display of athletes on and before. So if you don't know, look up Big East videos and you'll see not only basketball, but you'll see street fighting, you'll see clothesline, and you'll see, a different style of basketball. It was different.
Yeah. So what would you say some of your best moments was at Boston College as a player?
Wow, we played. If you looked at the Big East back then, Final Four teams in 1 year. The year before that, we had 2 in the Final Four, and 2 years after that, we had 2 in the Final Four. So we dominated that whole era. And I mean, looking at playing against and being some of the greatest coaches were there as well. John Thompson, Rolly Massimino, St. John's. But the greatest moments to me was beating number 1 in the country, Georgetown, at the Garden, in the buzzer beater, and then beating number 2 in the nation, Syracuse, when they had Derek Holmes and Sherm Douglas and Billy because they both were buzzer beaters and beating like top 5 schools in the country.
Wow. Yeah. So, we have another fan question. Someone wants to know, one of our fans want to know, what was the battles like against Magic Johnson?
Man, it was insane because he was literally like a foot taller than me. So I would switch off and play Byron Scott, when they would put Nate McMillan on Magic. And he was still too. And what people don't realize is he was LeBron James before LeBron James. He just wasn't as athletic.
Yeah.
But he was the best passer in the history of the game at 6'9", transformed the game from having small point guards who just were point guards. He changed the game in terms of getting up and down the floor. It was really a slow, methodical game. Before that, Showtime is actually the moniker that fits him perfectly. And it was just amazing because he spawned Grant Hill, Penny Hardaway, LeBron James, these 6, 8, 9 point guards. And again, just the most amazing passer, man, that you ever see. So, and the coolest guy you ever want to meet. So I just love it. And I'm watching that series right now on Showtime with it. And I'm bugging out because the craziest thing about watching Magic, I tuned in to watch him was how Jerry West and Jerry Buss.
Oh yeah, it froze. I think it. Yeah, it froze. There we go. Something is going on my end, but I missed the whole. We missed the whole thing. What was?
Okay, so what was it? What was I talking about again? I forgot.
Oh, you're the Magic Johnson. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So just playing against Magic was crazy because he was a foot taller than me, and he had the ability to he could just do so many things with the basketball, and he spawned all these different players from Grant Hill to Penny Hardaway to Tracy McGrady, LeBron James. I mean, he spawned all these players. He's obviously not as athletic as LeBron, but just a specimen at 6'10", 250. You know what I mean? So just one of the greatest players to play against, the greatest passer in the history of the game to me, and just an unbelievable cool guy, man. So, and I got the opportunity. I'm watching this HBO Max thing about the Lakers behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
It shows a lot of things going on behind the scenes that went on in the 80s and 90s of the NBA, which people should definitely tune in because you'll see a side of him that you see him at home and how he grew up and how he first came into the league. So check that out as well. It's a great insight.
Yeah, we got it. Definitely fans check that out too. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm gonna check that out pretty soon. But for you, I gotta ask you, what did that mean to you when Boston College retired your number 3 into the rafters?
It was great. I mean, it took like a couple of years, you know what I'm saying? But it was great to have the number honored because at the time, the year they did it, I had 2 kids in school at that time. I had a senior and a freshman. So both my sons were at Boston College and got to experience that firsthand as students. So it was pretty cool. They're in the ACC now, so you get to see all those great Duke, North Carolina players come through and get to see that. And my stats were actually transferred over to the ACC. So when people look at ACC stats, they'll see my name in the top 5 or 10 in scoring and stuff like that. So that was pretty cool as well.
Yeah. So take us to your draft experience. You got drafted round 1 to the Seattle Supersonics. And what was that like? The moment like being with your family, waiting for your name to be called, and once you got your name called by Seattle, how relieved were you?
Actually, man, it's crazy. I wasn't relieved. I was totally pissed off, man, because I was in Chicago the morning of the draft, and I sat with Jerry Krause and Doug Collins, the coach of the Bulls, and they told me they were taking me with the 21st pick.
Wow.
And I played with my idol, Michael Jordan. So, you know, there wasn't no cell phone. So I flew back home. By the time I got back to Boston, it was around 4 o'clock, and the draft was at 8 o'clock. So I'm telling everyone, I'm supposed to be a second-round pick.
Right.
So they told me they're picking me at 21. I'm saying I'm playing with Michael Jordan. You know, I'm just like, went to the park, told everyone I'm playing with Michael Jordan. I had my Chicago shirt on because I already had all the gear. So I'm watching the draft, not even paying attention at 16. And David Stern says with the 16th pick, Seattle selects Donna Barriosi. And I'm like, who the hell is Donna Barriosi, right? And my boy's like, yo, that's you. So I'm like, bro, I was in tears, like in a bad way. No, like I don't want to go to Seattle. I never visited Seattle, like, so I had no comprehension of what it would be like. And it took me a good 3 or 4 days to get over not being drafted by Chicago. You know what I mean? So once I got to Seattle, Sean Kemp was my name. It was all love after that. You know what I mean? But the initial experience was just traumatic, man, because that was just, you know, it was something that I just dreamed of my whole life, to play with Michael Jordan, and it was gonna come true. But I got to play against him for 11 years, you know. So it was cool to play with Sean Kemp, Gary Payton, and all those other guys as well.
Yeah. So speaking of the Seattle Supersonics team, you guys were loaded that time, and you spent 4 years with the Supersonics, and obviously there's no more team there. But tell our fans about the experience there. Obviously, it took you 3-4 days to get over it, but when you saw your teammates like Gary Payne and Sean King, man, you were happy. And so, what was that like, being with them, playing with them? And do you think it's time to see another NBA team there at some point?
Absolutely, man. I mean, it's disgusting because I would say them and Golden State probably have the best fans I've ever experienced. And our fans in Boston, when the cage came, our fans changed. Like, we went from the Oregon era with the old, you know, to the Illmatic beats and the music, and like, we changed. So our fans became totally different. They became a lot more of a younger crowd. So, but Seattle had amazing fans. It wasn't due to, you know, non-support. What happened was the team was sold. I think it was a Starbucks owner bought the Supersonics, and he had this contract with the NBA that if the city didn't build him a new arena, he could move the team. So it had nothing to do with the fans or the city. They were great, unbelievable fans. They just built like new Kingdom and like a new baseball park. So they didn't have the money to build a brand. So they offered a renovation, and the guy moved the team to Vancouver or Memphis or whatever, something like Oklahoma City. So that's what happened. And it's disgusting that, because the fans didn't deserve that. They were totally loyal. We were sold out every game. And it was like 5 years from a championship appearance, you know? So they definitely need a new team. And if anyone gets a new team before them, there's some issues in Seattle. You know what I'm saying? There should be some issues with all the people in Seattle. They deserve it.
Yeah. So for you, we have another fan question. They want to know, what was Gary Payton and Sean King like as teammates?
Sean Kemp and Gary Payton were young, brash, crazy kids, and perfect for this era right now. You know what I mean? Like, George Karl used to have to tell them to calm down, relax, slow down, stop throwing lobs. And, you know, we had a bunch of guys taking 3-pointers. But those guys, they mixed, you know what I mean? It was like oil and water, but they mixed, you know what I mean? They didn't mix, but they mixed on the court. Like, they would yell at it. They would have an all-out, drag-out fight in the locker room. And then as soon as the game started, they would communicate as if nothing happened, you know what I mean? And they had the ultimate respect for each other. So it was great to watch those guys develop, because Sean came off the bench his first year. I think I played more than him our rookie year. And Gary had a really slow first year. If you look at his stats, I think he averaged 7 points. The next year, maybe 8 or 9 points. And then he kind of took off after that. So I got to watch those guys really mature into Hall of Fame players, and it was amazing to watch.
Yeah, so for you, obviously, even though you didn't get to play with your idol, but you got to play against your idol, Michael Jordan, throughout your career. So what was it like going against your idol? And did you guys ever like trash talk or talk for fun, or what was that like for you playing against your idol?
Crazy story. So like I said, I thought Michael Jordan was my favorite team, my favorite player. And the first game ever in the NBA was at the Kingdom against the Chicago Bulls. So my first game ever. So I'm just watching in the warm-up line, and I'm just looking at Michael Jordan in amazement. And the first thing I said to myself was, damn, he's tall as shit. Like, he's 6'9", like, huge, right? So I'm like, oh my, this is crazy. So I don't start the game, and I get into the game, And the first time I catch the ball in the corner, Michael Jordan is in my face. And I'm like, oh, get out the way. He's in the post, like, and I'm like, no, I'm going one-on-one. I'm like, get out the way.
Oh my God.
I thought that was hilarious. He's like, okay, Danny, you're not shooting no threes. And I'm like, damn, he knows my name, right? But I didn't know we had scouting reports and all that,
Yeah.
So I go by him and I'm going up for this like finger roll. And I'm like, oh. And this big black hand came out of nowhere and slapped the ball like 5 rows into the stands, right? And everybody, and he came up to me and he put his arm around me. He's like, I like that little man. And every time I seen him from that point on, he used to say this saying. I don't even know if he remembers. He used to say, oh, here come Dana. Dana's here. It's like he was mostly me, though. So every time we reenacted after that, we would always have a little like mess talk. And he would always say, I got Dana. He ain't going to score. And it was just, man, it was an amazing experience to play against that dude. And he was a great competitor on the court, man. And I love that about him.
Do you still keep in contact with him, or have you connected with him recently? And do you bring up that story to him too?
No, but every time I see him, I run into the Charlotte locker room and try to get some autographs, man. You know what I mean? I'm like, come on, Mike. He's like, Dana, why you got 15 autographs? I'm like, come on. So that was about 7-8 years ago was the last time, but I know how it is. So I try not to bother him too much. But from when I had my kids at that time and doing my house, and I really want to make sure I got him and a couple of other guys, got that signature to let everybody know it was official that, I was there. You know what I mean?
All right. We have another fan question. They want to know, what was your nickname throughout your career?
They used to call me, in the beginning of my career, they used to call me Flash or Speedy because I ran a 4.340. Wow. I took a visit at BC and I ran a 4.340. They used to call me Speedy and Flash. But then when I got to the NBA, they called me a bunch of, names, Little Man, Midget,
oh my God,
Shorty, mostly the fans, but I just, the name that kind of stuck with me the second half of my career was Walter McCarty. He used to call me Butter. He used to say, it's like butter. And so that kind of, my whole 7 years with the Celtics, my nickname was Butter, So, people would, when they would call me Butter, people would look at me like I was crazy, but it was kind of like
When it comes to basketball, for me, it doesn't matter about height. It matters about talent, how hard you guys worked, how hard you work to get here at this point. For example, you got Muggsy Bogues, another guy, a great player there, Spud Webb or Nate Robinson, and you still see short point guards that can still play in this game. And it doesn't matter how short or tall. It's just a matter of how hard you guys work.
Definitely, Muggsy. I played against him for probably 11 or 12 years, and of the 11 years he was in the league, or 12 years he was in the league, he led the league, I think, 5 or 6 years in assists.
Yeah.
And 4 or 5 years he led them in steals. So, people think it was very easy to post him up, but he would get under you and he would make it hell for you. So Bud Webb as well, winning dunk. Coming down the middle in the NBA, dunking on people, just amazing guys. And just kind of Michael Adams paved the way really for me to have those opportunities, Calvin Murphy and first Isaiah Thomas,
Yeah. Speaking of Isaiah Thomas, we had him on the show 2 years ago, the guy from the Bad Boy Piston. And it was an honor. It was an honor talking to him, and what a great player.
5'11", bro. It's not. I mean, I'm saying, like, just amazing.
Yeah. So for you, you had a crazy situation happen to you in the 93-94 season, where the Sonics traded you to the Hornets for Kendall Gill, and then 2 days after, you got traded again to the Sixers. So take us to that story. How crazy was that? In the span of 48 hours, getting traded to 2 teams.
Well, I mean, I knew I was getting traded because the last year in Seattle, my 4th year in Seattle, I had 1 more year left on my contract, and I told the president, I said, bro, I'm the nicest guy you ever want to meet. I said, but if you bring me back here next year to sit on the bench for 1 more year, you're going to see Boston Dana. I said, you're not going to like Boston Dana.
Yeah.
I said, I'm a totally different person. I'm a professional, but I'm not going to let you ruin my career by just sitting on the bench behind Gary Payton. He's a great player. I get it. Please don't do this to me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I told him that in the locker room at the last game. And after that last game, I didn't meet with anyone. I took a red eye back to Boston. I didn't answer any phone calls. And then they finally traded me to Charlotte. So I was thinking, this is worse. I'm playing behind Muggsy Bogues now. I'm like, I'm going from Gary Payton from one Hall of Famer to another. So it didn't really, but my agent called me and he's like, no, we're working out something with Philly.
Oh, wow.
So I knew for that 48 hours I was going to Philly. I pretty much knew it. One guy had to pass his physical, and then once that happened, it went. So it was a little rough because I had been begging for opportunity, right? I'm saying I need to know what I can do. I need to show what I can do. And now again, like the Big East thing, I was like, oh shit, like the opportunity is here. And now like this whole summer I got to prepare for this and I got to be ready. And that's what I was on.
Well, all we can say, Dana, you had a heck of a career. Like I said earlier, you kept working hard. You didn't give up. You got your opportunity. Man, over your career, you had over like 9,000 points, man. And that's amazing. And you, like I said, you killed it in the NBA. That's in my opinion. Yeah. Yeah. So for you, a lot of people forget about this. I got to ask you, when you were the first six, I mean, before Allen Iverson came, you were the last Sixer to wear number 3. And take us to that story. So for you, what did it mean to you to wear number 3 in a Sixer uniform? And when Allen Iverson came in, how did that work out?
Well, I mean, the thing about that season was the Sixer fans were so amazing, man. Like, even when I got traded and I came back to play Philly and Boston, they would give me a standing ovation and show me a lot of love because they understood that the owner gave me a $6 million deal and gave me 4 times that. So they understood that, and that I didn't want to leave, and I was home. So they were great to me. So I was thinking, oh man, I'm going to have this long, lovely relationship with the Philly fans, and number 3 is going to be remembered. And then, bam, Allen Iverson came, and they were like, they'll never even remember I wore number 3 ever again. So, but even now, they're still great to me, man, and I appreciate the city because you have to earn their respect over there, bro. And I just appreciate it that they respected me and my game and my family and the whole situation. So salute to them.
Yeah. So for you, tell us when you connected with Allen Iverson, what's it like for you and him only to be the 2 players who were number 3 for the Sixers?
It was awesome because we both were Big East guys. You know what I mean? We both came through that Big East thing, and we were kind of similar players where, you know, everyone was trying to stop us. And we both went number 3 in college as well. So averaging 25, 26 a game and just out in the open floor. He was more of a slasher and I was just pull up from 30. So, and people would always tell us that we kind of looked alike. I had the cornrows, actually the training camp in Philly,
Wow.
Before I had cornrows. And I'm going to tell you, bro, people were looking at me like I was just released from like Rikers Island. I got craziest looks having cornrows in like 1993, 94. It was like, I got to the point where I was like, I'm going to take these out. You know what I mean? It was that bad to where, it was kind of like profiling type thing. So it was people like, oh, you guys look like each other a little bit. So we always had that connection, and me being in the same sentence as him is amazing in any aspect.
All right, so we have another fan question. One of our fans want to know, outside of all the stadiums you played in, what would you say they want to know what was your most favorite city to play in?
I have one for one reason and one for another. The favorite stadium for me to play in for basketball was Miami Heat Arena. Wow. Just my first year, I think they came in the same year I did. They were an expansion team, and they had the craziest sound system that when I was out there, I felt like I was in the club. I was always hyped, hot, so I was always warm. I love that. And then number 2 was the LA Forum. The Lakers. They had like the most amazing Laker girls, man, and the atmosphere, stars, and like you go, like People don't know, like, this is in the Forum, the gym is right here, and the club is right here in the same in the same place. So you can see all the stars. You could go like straight from the locker tower, take 15 steps, and then you go into the Forum Club, and you just with all these people with Magic and they back room. So for that atmosphere to see, you know, every single person you could imagine, you know, Hugh Hefner and Prince, and you could imagine all the people that were there. So it was amazing. That experience was amazing from, you know, just that cultural standpoint.
Man, I wish I was able to experience the partying with you guys. I was born in '95, so I missed all the partying from back in the day.
And no cell phones, no cameras, none of that, bro. It was good.
Yeah, so take us back to your second season with Philly. You had some career highs in your career with Philly. 56-point game. You had a triple double, and you were named an All-Star that year too. So what was it like the second year in Philly for you? What was the key to success?
Well, I mean, my first year in Philly, I averaged like 13 or 14 points, and really kind of said to myself, okay, I can play straight point guard. I averaged a 7 or 8 assists. You know, I was playing straight point guard. I wasn't trying to score a lot. I was shooting a great percentage. And I was just playing point guard. You know, I was on my John Stockton-ish. So that's what I was talking about, like John Stockton, right? So, and that's like the first week of the season, Jeff Malone, who was our leading scorer, gets hurt. And he was like averaging 23 a game. And about 2 weeks after that, another player gets hurt. And then I remember John Lucas just looking at me at halftime in front of the whole team. And he was like, Dana, I need you to score 30. I don't care how you do it. I don't care how many shots you take. I need you to score 30. And then he stopped. And then he said, but I still need you to get your 9 assists.
Wow.
I was like, what? I was like, okay. I'm like, okay. And then it kind of just went from there, you know. And he just kept telling me, be more aggressive. Like, you're not aggressive enough. You're shooting 50% from the floor and 47% from the three. I need you to take more shots. And then it just kept building up until he didn't have to tell me anymore. And so I give him a lot of credit for giving me, you know, that freedom out of, you know, necessity, you know, obviously, but he gave me that freedom and I took advantage of it.
Wow. Yeah, so take us to that triple-double game against Orlando. I think it was Orlando Magic, correct me if I'm wrong, against Orlando Magic. And what was that like when you got that triple-double?
It was crazy because I was playing against Shaq and Penny and those guys. You know? They kept posting me up. And that was the craziest game because I felt so small with Shaq and Penny and everybody. That's the highest rebound game I ever had, when I felt the smallest, you know, ever in the world. So it was amazing because it was such a crazy game. Sean Bradley was there. Shaq was trying to break the rim every time he got the ball to prove a point with the Sean Bradley thing. And it was just amazing because that was the only one. And the 13 rebounds was the key. I don't think I've ever gotten double-figure rebounds again. Resume that I could, you know, chalk up when I get to be in my old age, I can, you know, I can embellish on it a little bit.
Yeah, so during the 94-95 season, you became a free agent and you decided to go home, play for the Boston Celtics. You played with David Wellesley, D. Brown, Antoine Walker, Paul Pierce. So what was it like going back home and playing with those guys in Boston?
Great guys. I mean, ML Carr and, like I said, Larry Bird brought me home. It was an unbelievable contract, you know, great contract. And it was just a tough situation because they weren't really trying to win. They were trying to we were like in the Tim Duncan and trying to get the lottery pick type thing. And it was like almost if you played good, it was like, oh, he made too many threes, get him out the game. It was like that for a couple of years there. But my family got to see me play. And after them traveling so much and supporting me, it was great for them to see me play there. And but it was just great, man. Again, the fans are great. We didn't have that many winning seasons. It was tough from a winning standpoint. But also, too, when I got there, I had a severely sprained ankle. I tore ligaments off the bone and had bone chips.
Wow.
And that led to me losing a lot of my athleticism. And I became more of just a shooter from that standpoint. I had ankle surgery. I came back too early, then I had to have like shots in my back. So that kind of was where I became, where people see me who are young, they just see me as a shooter. Before that, before 97, I could 360 dunk the basketball. I was zoom, zoom, zoom. So I had to really struggle for the first year after that to really change my game. I lost a lot of speed and athleticism.
Wow. Yes, and then also throughout your career, you got traded 2 times again to Dallas and then to the Pistons, and that was another. It must have been another crazy situation for you in your career. What take us to that situation?
The biggest blessing, I think, in my career, obviously not with my family and kids, but in my career, because after my ankle surgery and my back issues, I couldn't play. I was on IR. So when I got traded to Dallas, I was literally on IR, and they sent me to Detroit. And I got to meet this unbelievable doctor. His name was Arnold. No, his name Arnie. I forget his last name. He was just unbelievable guy because he fixed my back. He told me that I didn't need back surgery, and he put me through these like stretches and these different motions, and I played for 2 more years after that. Wow. But I couldn't. If I went to the mall with my son, I would have to sit down after 5 minutes. I had so much back pain. So me getting traded to Detroit was the greatest thing, because now I have a 5-court basketball facility. I play in the men's league. I play golf 3 days a week. They wanted to fuse 3 of my not been able to do any of that. So that trade was a blessing in disguise for the rest of my life.
All right. So here we have another fan question for you. So since you had a good taste of music, they want to know, what was it like being up here? What was it like being on an album back in the day?
Oh man, great question. They have to be at least 40 or something to know about that.
Yeah.
Or they're on YouTube. That was. I'm still do music with my son. My son has music on SoundCloud, and I've done about 5 or 6 songs with him. I love music. Music and sports go together. So people, if you've never been around an NBA team or locker room or even a college or high school practice, you can go to practice, locker room, or a game. You will hear music blaring through the practices, through the locker rooms and phones. It just goes together. So I was just minding my business in the NBA. Well, Capitol Records approached the NBA, and they got the naming rights to do an NBA album. So they picked producer and rapper together. So it was basketball's best kept secret. So they got Gary Payton and Too Short. They're both from Oakland. So they paired up, rap. So my single was chosen. I did it with a DJ and a producer from New York. My single was chosen as a video. So I got to be on MTV Raps. I was on BET. I was on all the video shows. And it was amazing because I think a lot of the music industry, I got great reviews from them. That was the most important thing for me, is to be official, in terms of those guys. So that was an amazing experience. What I didn't know was that how long we were going to be in the studio. I went to New York. We went in the studio like on a Friday night at 6, and we didn't come out the studio till Sunday morning, like at 6 a.m. Wow. They ordered food and nothing. We barely slept, and we did 2 singles.
Yeah, so that's amazing. And for you now, after your career, after you retired, you opened up a Dana Barros sports club complex and social club. And after that, too, you were assistant coach at Northwestern University and assistant coach, obviously, with the NBA champion Celtics. So what's it been like for you after your career, helping these young athletes and being an assistant coach and having a complex open?
It's been gratifying. I mean, for all the young people out there, if you ever happen to find something you love to do for a living, it's an amazing thing, because I still wake up every day and I go to my gym when kids are in school and I'm by myself, and I can turn on the speakers and just play whatever music I want and shoot on every chord, and just for the love of the game. And that's what I just inspire people to do. And my thing is not to get everyone to the NBA. It's to teach everyone to be the best possible you can be as a player. And then remember that you can be an agent, you can be a GM, you can be a president, you can still be involved in so many ways of the game. So I like to just inspire kids, and I do a lot of speeches, and I go around for the Celtics as a consultant as well, and for Boston College as a consultant, and talking to kids that it's attainable. Look at me. Like if anyone can tell you can do it, is me. And it was all about work. It had nothing to do with anything else other than work and luck, which I believe is destiny. You know what I mean? You're working hard, you're in the right place, destiny finds you, you know? So that's my goal, is to be the OG for all those young players. If you want to work on your shot, come see me. I have all these shooting guns. And my next goal is to be the shot doctor for the NBA players, because I know all you fans are tired of watching all these guys make all this money and can't make a free throw. It's amazing.
Yes. Yeah. So for you, we have another fan question. They want to know, what was it like playing against the late Kobe Bryant?
Man, I tell you, it's still hard to watch the videos and even talk about it, you know, because I saw Kobe, my all-star year in Philly. Kobe would come to the Philadelphia games, and he would come in the locker room, and he would ask the guy who worked me out every day to give him the drills that I would do. And I got to meet him, and he was at Lower Marion and one. So to watch him go to the NBA and to see him become who he was just unbelievable. To just even have a little part in that was amazing. And it was even my own part, whether he may not even remember, but actually, because every time he came up, we had conversations, you know, and he would always come up to me, because I think he remembered that, you know, he just remembered those times where I just gave him that little information about the pick and roll. But that should tell you that to be that way, you have to be weird. And you have to be, I was the weirdo. I had the ball every day. They called me the ball boy weirdo all day. You know, until they see me on TV and I wasn't the weirdo no more, right? That meticulous he wanted to know, how was I beating the pick and roll? Yeah. As a high school kid, 17 years old, a year earlier than he was even supposed to be. So it was just amazing to watch, and it's still difficult knowing, you know, that the families that were involved and all that, bro. Like I can't, like the anniversaries, I don't watch ESPN at all. Like I have that memory that I just can't even, emotionally, I'm not ready for it yet. So it's tough, but it was an honor to play, you know, in the same arena, league, and on the same court.
Yeah. So tell our fans about D3 Legacy, and what's that like? What's that been like for you for D3 Legacy?
Well, I mean, having the facility and having branding and stuff as a name just on a basketball court. My son, he was a graphic designer and an abstract artist, and that was his major. He actually did one of this picture behind me, just amazing artist. So, you know, I just wanted him graduating from BC, we started our own company, you know, Legacy Gear. And him and my other son, we just started about a month ago. I'm getting the website up now. Just having different logos, trying to promote, you know, having the right, to me, and my name is all I have. It's what's going to last me. These buildings will hopefully last for 25, 30 years. And young people out there, what you have is your name. So when you're out there acting crazy on Instagram and doing all these crazy things, your jobs are going to look back at all this stuff, and your name is what you're going to have precede you when you walk into your life going forward. So it's kind of important to me for me to leave that. The younger kids who come through my gym know me as the guy with the unbelievable gym, you know, the 8, 9, and 10-year-olds. That's what they know me as. So I'm trying to rebrand myself and just, you know, sit back and enjoy and finally get to watch all the things that I've accomplished, because I never really took time to look at it and understand it and enjoy it, you know? Yeah.
So for you, what's it been like to share your stories on these platforms, on these shows like this? And I'm sure you've been on other podcasts and other shows. So what's that been like just to share your stories to people?
Well, everything. I just got on Instagram. My Instagram is Barros 3. I just got on there, and me looking through old videos, finding stuff to post for people to see who and high school old videos. I say videos because, I have tapes. I had to convert them to the new millennium media. But man, it's given me a new appreciation of what I've done. And honestly, like, I've never looked back at my career, but it's given me an opportunity to sit back and be like, wow, that was pretty amazing. And that's the thing that kind of just feels good. It feels good to put that information out there and for people to go, wow, I didn't even know that. And I say to myself, I don't know it either. I'm just finding out myself. So that's the thing, man. I've never been a person that wanted spotlight or anything like that. So social media gets people to see a different side of me. I'm fun on social media. I interact with everyone.
Yeah.
If you say anything good, bad, or ugly, I try to interact with you on a respectful level. I let everyone speak their piece, and we have conversations about the GOAT and stuff like that. So I love it, man. It's great. It's great for me to interact with people internationally.
Yeah. So for you also worked for Nesson too as an analyst. So what was that like? Working for Nesson? That's a great sports network there in Boston.
Yeah, I did Comcast for 4 years and Nesson for I think 5 or 6. But it was tough, man, because you're doing games, and me, when I'm talking I'm just keeping it 1,000.
Yeah.
I'm not about, and sometimes you say things and you're actually friends with these people. You know what I mean? So I'm actually covering the Celtics, and I'm actually going out hanging out with these guys afterwards. And sometimes you like say stuff and you're like, oh man, I should have said that. I should have said it a little differently. And it's not that he would take it that way. People might think I would, because they don't know our relationship. And it got to the point sometimes I was like, man, I don't want to do this anymore. It was too tough to really be 1,000 the way I want. And then have to go see these people face to face. Salute, because that's tough to do.
Yeah. So for you, before we get to the last two things, what was your reaction when LeBron passed Karl Malone yesterday on the scoring list?
Crazy. Not because he's averaged his career. It's been amazing what he's done, from a health standpoint, keeping his body right, mentally still being into the game like a Tom Brady, guys, you have no idea, like the regimen. You go to the locker room an hour and a half to 2 hours before the game, and you have this routine. You have to put your headphones on. You have to look at the stat sheet. That, to me, drives people away from the game more than the game itself, and the traveling and being away from your family. So for him to put up with that and still be as successful and as accomplished as he is amazing. And I have nothing but honors to say to him. And, he's probably the third greatest player ever, as I argue on my Instagram between NBA and Kobe, and I take a lot of heat for that, but that's what I feel. So amazing guy, amazing player, and wish I had the opportunity to play against him. I missed him by 1 year.
Well, yeah. So speaking of Tom Brady, what was your reaction when he came back after 40 days of retirement?
That's all good. I still got the Buccaneers jersey, Patriots jerseys, all. So I'm good. I just want him to be safe and be because sometimes you get that line ain't right when you move people around, and I just want him to be safe and injury free and be successful, man, because he should be in New England right now. And I'm mad at Billy, man. I'm mad at Billy for that. I'm still a Patriots fan, but I'm also a Brady and a Bucs fan. So it was amazing to watch him as well, to be there for almost every year.
Yeah, I think he'll come back strong, and I think this puts the Buccaneers are right there on the top again in the NFC. So it should be interesting to see. But yeah, so now the last two things here. Our team is part of this foundation. It's called the Hugh Jackson Foundation. He's a former NFL coach. We're trying to help him prevent human trafficking, making sure the community stays safe, the kids stay safe. So it's still horrible out there what we're seeing with human trafficking. So we're trying to stop that. And so we'll send you the foundation so you can go check it out.
Absolutely, definitely, and something I love to be involved with. Kids is in my heart. That's why I do. We try to make sure that they're good people as well as, and they're not going to be most likely NBA players. So we try to mold good people, good men and young women. So that's definitely something that's near to my heart and love to be involved. So definitely send that out.
Yeah, thank you. And the last thing here, would you like to say anything to all the nurses, doctors, and all the essential workers right now?
Just appreciate you. I've always had that, and especially the military servicemen and women as well, which is, to me, like, I just feel like we all should be home and we shouldn't be doing any of this stuff at all. And just to have families, just split up or what I don't even want to go into it. It's like something that's dear to my heart. So that's another thing that I just wish everyone health and happiness and wellness. And again, just be safe and be the greatest you can be. And check out that DB Legacy gear.
Mm-hmm.
And follow me on Instagram 3. I try to give tips to young shooters, young dribblers on how to, different moves and way to handle the game of basketball. So check it out. And hopefully we'll talk again maybe after the playoffs.
Yeah.
Playoffs round, we'll chop it up again, definitely.
Yeah. So speaking of, before we close this out, would you like to plug anything to our fans so they can find where can they find you on social media?
Definitely. Dana Barros 3 on Instagram and at DB Legacy Gear. Cop one of those. You got t-shirts for $20, hoodies are $45. We got different logos, almost every single color. Check it out. And I'll hit you with one as well, bro. Make sure you can on the day,
Thank you. Yeah. So there it is. That wraps up episode 996 with the one and only Dana Barros, a former Boston College NBA point guard, shooting guard from Boston, Massachusetts. Got to play close to home throughout his career with the Celtics. Obviously played for the Supersonics, Sixers, Pistons. Man, what a great career. NBA All-Star. Man, and what a great story, inspiring story. And obviously he's doing big things off the court after his retirement. D3 Legacy, go check that out. Helping out the youth, and also he was an analyst, NBA champion as assistant coach with the Boston Celtics. Man, he did it all. So, but go follow him on Instagram, and thank you again, man. We would love to have you back on the show at some point, like you said, after the playoffs, so you can meet the full team. But keep up the great work, and thank you again.
All day, bro. Anytime. Looking forward to it.
Thanks. Yep.